This week in comic books, my wife came with me to the comic book store. And that means I ended up buying a bunch of gimmick covers that caught her eye. And I made the mistake of reading some of them. That, a few other things I didn't like, a few things I did like, but just to make it up in case I hurt somebody's feelings out there, I got an unboxing to do. And oh, Bubba, you're going to want to see this at the end of the video. So check this out and we'll jump right into the reviews. Alright, you bunch of weirdos, welcome back to a new week of comic books, and as I said in the beginning, we got some kind of gimmicky covers this week. We have the April Fool's Day variant cover. First, we got the Batman Who Stopped Laughing. Now, I vaguely remember picking up issue 1 of this, and it's all about the Joker getting tired of Gotham, so he beats feet to L.A., and we kind of pick up here where we have a Manhunter. You may remember most of the Manhunters. This one dresses in red, and she's a female. That's cool. You go about your business and do your stuff. But I gotta be honest, there was some cool stuff in here. I kind of wish I would have kept reading this through, because maybe I wouldn't have gotten lost so quickly. And there's a secondary story in here where Joker runs for president and then realizes, I don't really want to be president. I'd rather be a king. Why be a president when you can be a king, right? All in all, it's pretty good. The art styling in most of this is not really my flavor, but I can see where somebody does like it. It's very detailed, very brilliant, very bright. Some of the dialogue, yes, can be kind of cheesy in this, right? But I don't know. It's fun. It's somewhat whimsical, and I didn't mind it. But again, not a cover I'm looking to buy, right? Like, let's just be honest. If you're a collector out there, you know where this is going to end up in the next few months, right? This is going to be a dollar bin book right here. Yeah, so I mean, I do appreciate the fact that our cover artist here, who's actually a writer, right? A writer doing a cover, so you should expect like grandiose artwork, but just the type of cover he did there. Of course, that's that classic cover of Joker holding the two fish. I forget the issue name, but you get what if you ever seen Joker and his fish, he's attacking fish. There's your cover. Next, we got, again, another gimmick cover. And this is Batman 134. This is dealing with Batman in this kind of multiverse kind of thing now, because everything's multiverse or multidimensional or someplace other than here. And everybody's kind of swip-swapped characters in here. And more specifically in this one, we get Ghostmaker, but he's called Ghostbreaker. I thought there. And, of course, he's using Venom, like stuff Bane uses, right? That gets him all big and everything. He's kind of on here, and Batman's doing the best he can to fight him. But probably the big shocker in here is Robin, Tim Drake Robin, in his new Robin suit. It's like, I'm going to go save him. So he gets Mr. Terrific, jumps through temporal woo-woo blah blah, right? But first he's like, no, I need to take a quick stop to go see my mother in some other multiverse place. So it's not really his mother, but he's like, I want to see my momsies. So he hugs his momsies, kisses his momsies, and then he's off back to go save Batman. Okay. That's all I gotta say about that. Alright, next. My wife is collecting these as well. And this is where I just about had enough of the gimmick covers this week. And then, of course, there's another one. And you know which one it is already. So, of course, we got Amazing Spider-Man. It seems like every time I say, I'm not going to be picking up any more Spider-Man. It's just not my jive right now. My wife comes with me to the comic book shop, and of course I have to pick it up because it's some gimmick cover. So here we are with the lot of Disney covers this week. You'll notice that as well. So basically what happens, again, almost the same thing as the Batman thing, only role reversal. Spider-Man was in someplace in the multiverse, gets kicked out of it by this crazy demon god thing because Mary Jane kind of did some woo-woo pushing button stuff. Sends him back to Earth or out of time as well because he's not in the same time frame. And of course, in his rush to get back to go help Mary Jane, he ends up pissing off all of his friends, like legitimately, like Thing and the Human Torch, right? Because he wanted to use Reed Richards' lab, and they're like, "Hey, Slim, we don't really understand what's going on right now. You're acting kind of frantic. We don't even know if it's the real you, right? Comic book stuff. Could be a clone. As a matter of fact, being Spider-Man, it's a good chance." And they're like, "Nah. Look, hey, let's take a couple of days. Let's figure this out." He's like, "Nah, kid. jumps out of there, runs over, and they're like, call Captain America. Captain America shows up, and he's like, hey, man, just relax, right? Let's do some verifying here before we just jump into a plan. And he's like, no, I need Baxter's lab or Stark's lab. Just give me a lab. Give me a lab. I always like how they just randomly throw the word lab out there, too. Just to say it. So he gets into a fight with Captain America, and he's like, screw you. I'm going to go to the one guy who I hate the most because all my friends are letting me down. And he goes to Norman Osborn because you can't get enough of that guy. Goes to him, and he's like, hey, we fought earlier in the comic book. Yeah, they fought a little bit. Well, not really. He just kind of pushed him around. Shows up at the end, and of course, you're right, that's going to happen now. So Norman, for some reason, we are just fascinated over at Marvel with Norman Osborn for some reason. And I'm just like, next. It's time for a villain. Like a real villain. But, yeah, so expression on my face should tell you enough about that. Alright. Moving on. Planet of the Apes. Man, I'm going to tell you right now. Some of y'all read this and you were like, oh, I remember when this happened. So, what happens when first off, this is probably the best cover they had out of all the covers out there. I really just thought that just spoke a lot to me. It really did. So, apparently what's going on in this book, I'm not holding this one up the whole time. What happens in here is, right, if you know Planet of the Apes, right, virus breaks out worldwide. A fraction, right, believes that it's from the monkeys because they gave it a name, right, the simian virus. And then the other side of the group is like, no, we got to protect the monkeys, or higher apes, I think is what we're using in this book. So these two groups get so militant, right, that they literally pull guns on each other and do the worst things to each other. Now somebody can sit there and go, well, no, one was just trying to protect the monkeys. Well, one of the guards in this, if you remember the panel, literally shoots a person in their back. It's not like, hey, get down, show of force. Get down on the ground now. No, the guy's just like, oh, you think you're going to hit the monkeys. He does that. And I'm just like, oh, not even. Just don't give that guy a chance, huh? And then, of course, the other side's like, hey, we're going to kill all these people that put ape over man, and they're going to execute them too. Like, the two worst types of people protecting what they value, right? Because of a global pandemic. I'm just going to pause for a second. Okay. So, and of course, there's a young lady in this who's doing her best to try to make sense of all this, why it's happening, and of course, tragic backstory, the whole 9 yards. But to be honest, as cool as that cover was, it's probably relatable, I guess, as this comic book can be. I just didn't find the pacing in it very, I don't know. It just seemed kind of off to me. First off, to create a world terrorist organization, first you got to go visit G.I. Joe and get Cobra Commander. But for the most part, I don't know. I'm just not jiving with this story. There's just something weird about it. And I think the focus is in the wrong areas. And plus, I can't justify two groups of people doing horrible things to one another. Because and a little side note, right? If the situation always dictates a this or that scenario, like these are the two options, and that's it, then you're dealing with ignorant people. Because intelligent beings would find ways, creative ways, to actually deal with issues and problems instead of just each other. Just saying. From a veteran. Alright, moving on. Something else. I don't know what's going on. So, Cosmic Ghost Rider, guys, I know this is going to be a horrible one. This is old Pocan Joe reviewing comic books. If you've ever seen my early videos. This is Ghost Rider number 2. So, I've realized what this book is. Alright, so this book is nothing more than to take Ghost Rider to introduce new characters. Because the characters can't stand on their own. I know that's a horrible thing to say. And again, this is not an insult to the writers. They're probably told to write these kind of stories. Or maybe they generally think that they're putting something interesting out there. But there's no way you're going to convince me, a comic book reader, that read the first volume 1 of Cosmic Ghost Rider and was blown away at Frank Castle, right? Shooting through space on a motorcycle, doing cool, kick-ass, badass stuff, being the Herald of Galactus, having this cool power with him, so you got to up your villains a little bit. get reduced to some guy that's running away from bounty hunters and has some teenage girl putting a gun in his face and him acting scared. Like the guy went up against Galactus. I don't know. Also, something else bothered me in here, and this is how you know things are weird in comic books. Like when you're just so creatively devoid, right? So I'm going to read some dialogue from this, and I want to know what your comments are below about this. I'll show you the panels before I read, so you can get a full taste of this. Oh, let me see if I can find it. Let's just edit this part out. Okay, so here we go. So here's our weird bounty hunter guy in the cape. He's rolling up on Cosmic Ghost Rider, and Frank Castle just changed into Cosmic Ghost Rider, and here's the line. Time to put the golf clubs away. Because it looks like retirement's over, but I think I'll still keep the Hawaiian shirts. They're flattering and made from surprisingly breathable material. And there's your epic hero stance right there. That's your... First of all, why is he so skinny? What is that? That's what Ghost Rider is now. That's what we're gonna... Right? We promise you this. Right? But you get Jack Skellington back there. I don't know. And kind of the secondary story, I'm assuming in here, the transition wasn't very smooth in here. Of course, Valkyrie has to show up because, you know, she's a Marvel character. Okay. We're just going to keep right on moving along on that one. All right, next. More gimmick covers. So I dropped Venom a while back. And sure as shit, Scotty Young has to go and do a Venom cover. Thanks, Scotty Young. Thank you. So now my wife has that. And it's cute. You know, it's the baby thing. I get it. My wife enjoys it. So, yeah, of course I'm going to get it for her. But this was weird. And I'm kind of glad I did pick up this issue. Because what we're dealing here is the classic trope that you often see in comic books. It's an archetype, right? The dark mage versus the light mage, right? The mirror image of each other. And they kind of explain to us, like, the Beyonders, right? Remember his comic book from last week? The Beyonders and Null, right, the Black Kings, they're kind of the same concept, right? They're mirror images of each other, but opposites at the same time, and an internal conflict all the time. So Eddie Brock kind of brings up this thing, like, where he's talking to this void, if you will, that's a representation of a hand. I get that. That's funny. It's a thing. So, and it realizes that he's talking to his negative opposite, that is the void, right? It's all space-time, right? Being the king of the void, right? Or the king in black, or the king black, really means you're the king of nothingness, whereas the opposite of that would be Eddie Brock, who is life, right? There's a person there that needs to suit, right? There's a thing involved. So I thought that was interesting, and I thought it was relatively deep for a comic book. I'm not sad that I dropped off on that, but I am happy I did get this issue. So see, even buying a gimmick cover sometimes, right, you can be surprised. So all in all, sorry, it amazes me. Cool cover, weird character design in it, weird character design, cool art on the inside as well. There was a saying that people used to say back in the day, don't judge a book by its something or other. All right. Next, Joe Fixit. So this kind of takes a weird turn. And I'm still kind of hung up. I'm not sure how I feel about this. But I definitely want to point this out. So we get a new team in here. It's really a hashing of an old team, really, the Magi. They're a Las Vegas-based team of Once Upon a Time villains. Right? There you go. So to catch everybody up, basically Joe Fixit and SpiderMan kind of deals with his subconscious a little bit, teams up with Spider-Man. They're going to go take care of Wilson Fisk, and of course he's got Rhino and Electro in there because you need some muscle. They're basically extorting all the other casinos in town. They come over there, they start whipping up a little bit, and they win. Like, them two are winning, and for some random reason, this Magi team starts showing up. It's like a wizard with a machine gun. I don't know, Hydro Man, and some other people I don't really know that well. It was kind of lackluster, actually. Oh, and Whiplash. You remember Whiplash. Whiplash, too, is part of the group. So, yeah. It was kind of lackluster the way they just introduced this team. Like, one meeting, they're having a meeting, and then at the end, they just kind of show up when the battle's over. And it's like, I guess. It was, I don't know. I can't tell if I'm just having a bad week or if I'm just really disliking these comic books this week. I can't tell. It's horrible, isn't it? Like, I'm not hungry. All right, next. All right, Junk Rabbit. All right, so this is an interesting take. So as we all know, the world's largest producer of trash ever, of all time, is, of course, right here in the United States. If you believe that, you're absolutely 100% wrong. That is not the case. But this comic book kind of gears towards that. Whatever. Cool. Whatever. So in this new society, dystopian future in like 21 sometime that we'll never really comprehend in any way, none of us are going to see, most of America is nothing but trash heaps, right? And now there's two classes, right? There's the people that can afford to live in the domes, the upper class, high end, everything's kind of TikTok-ish, kind of a facade society, all right, of wealth and power. And then the people that live in the trash heaps that kind of scrape by, but they're really kind of ingenuitive and creative, and they can build things out of the trash and stuff like that. And apparently they have an urban legend amongst the trash people, sinkers, I think is what we're calling them, of something called Junk Rabbit, right? It's like this assassin thing, hence the cover, right? So basically what happens in here, a known streamer, TikToker type person, goes out there and he's kind of making fun of the trash people. Junk Rabbit shows up, chops his head off. Come to find out, his oldest relative, who kind of runs the dome cities, it was like related to him. I don't think it was a son, maybe a grandson or something like that. It's kind of forgettable actually. Hires a detective. Detective hires some mercenary guys to go out there and take care of this problem and see what's going on. Junk Rabbit shows up. The most of this is a lot of narrative about how three people in this kind of trash heap world exist. And it's not the interesting part of the comic book, but for some reason we spent a lot of time explaining who they are. And they're just average people. Like we spend a lot of time explaining average people. Like one guy's building an online Wi-Fi type network in the future because of trash. I'm not one to talk about making things out of trash. If you've seen my Evil Layer channel, that's what I do over there. So I'm not making fun of that aspect of it. But it just seemed like a lot of exposition on how normal we are. Just everyday people. Like we're trying to humanize people. That's what they were trying to do. Oh my God. That's where we're at. Okay. Okay, next. Pick of the week. Stupid pick of the week. But that's just for the single issue. I'm not saying the whole entire run. I want to be clear on this. Scar. That's right, another Disney cover with a villain on it. So I'm like, yeah. So normally when I read these things or you watch these things on Disney where they kind of focus on the villain, they kind of do this weird thing where they're like, but they're justified in the villain because these things happen to them, right? And it really does take away from the villainous nature of a villain, right? Because now you can't hate the person, right? Like Maleficent is probably a good example of that. There's been other ones. In this one, I hope they don't go that route, but I always did want to know, and this is a stupid question, because I remember the first time me and my daughter sat down and we watched The Lion King together on a tape. We're that old. And we're sitting there watching it, and I'll never forget, Scar has his hyena friends, and I was always like, I wonder how they met. That's the story we're getting in here, right? I don't know. Maybe it's a stupid thing, but I distinctly remember I was like, why would a lion be hanging out with a bunch of dogs? Like, that's kind of, he's royalty, he's kind of egotistical, and he's literally hanging out with the scraps, right? Why? But, I'm just going to enjoy it with my daughter, and that was what important at the time. And then all of a sudden I'm reading this thing, and I'm like, oh, they're going to tell me. I just hope it's not a redemption story where they kind of justify his attitude. I got a feeling it's going to go that way. I hope it doesn't. But if my comic book store has it, I'll be picking these up. Because again, I wouldn't even seen this if it wasn't for my wife. And it was okay. So, all in all, Not a bad week of comic books. I'm okay with it. Some weeks are just stinkers. But let's crack this open real quick because we have been on here a little bit. And I'm not sure how much of this I can actually edit. So let's crack into this Joker real quick. Super sharp razor blade. Probably edit some of this as well. Alright, so first, this was just kind of a throwaway bid for me. Probably not a high-end book. I think it will go to the 80s collection. And it is Terminator #1 of 2, but this one is from Now Comics. I don't know if anybody remembers that. It's a great cover. I absolutely love that cover. Let's put it over here. There we go. Get a close-up on it. So, yeah. And this is in pretty good condition. I'm really happy to get this. Got the old Michael Keaton game, Batman game back there. And the big book that I got on this, not in the best condition, but I'm okay with that because you really just don't see this. And this is Brave and the Bold, number 54, Kid Flash, Aqualad, and Robin. You may know them better as the founding children of Teen Titans. Before they were Teen Titans. With Crazy Dude. If you ever read this story, this whole villain thing makes no sense whatsoever. But it's just comic goodness. It is pinnacle woo-woo. Why the colonial guy in the tricorner hat is rocking a Native American staff that gives him weather powers. I know, it's great. So super happy to have that in my collection. Definitely. That makes me happy. So that's my haul and review for this week, guys. Again, nothing was said on here that wasn't meant to wound anybody's feelings or anything like that. These are just my hot takes, both good and bad, on comic books that I read this week. Definitely let me know what you read this week. Let me know what I missed, more importantly. If there was something that was in your local comic book shop that wasn't in mine, or if you read something that was really interesting, definitely let me know. I do read things digitally, too. So maybe I'll look it up or whatever. Evil Lair Project. Oh, we got a special one. It's not going to be a giveaway one, but we're going to do something really cool. We're going to test the limits of the local laws here. Okay. And of course, don't forget about the Comic Book Community Awards. Again, that link will be down below. Your favorite comic book YouTuber is not making a whole lot of money on these things, and they're probably not getting recognized as much as they would like to for the effort and the work that they put in. So definitely take the time, hit the link, pick the categories that you think your favorite YouTuber, comic book YouTuber, whatever the case may fit into, because they will be kind of scrubbed to fit in categories, right? So don't try to just put one name through everything. They're going to catch it. But, definitely give them a shout out. YouTube's hard, and it's not fair. And it is what it is, and it's not on your side. But you still put it out there so people like you can watch it. So definitely give that a thought. All right, guys, I got nothing else. I got to get out of here. Got to go hide my horrible haircut. I'll talk to you all later.